Welcome back to the Urban Monk. Dr. Pedram Shojai here in studio talking about shamanism. I love shamanism. It is one of these words that no one even knew for like 10, 12 years ago. You talk about shamanism, people look at you funny, and now all of a sudden you're cool if you're a shaman. And you're cool if you're a shaman if you've read certain books and you've run in certain circles and really kind of done the work and spent some time in Peru and been in the jungles and done all that. My guest today, Howard Charing, is an accidental shaman. And so he didn't intend to end up there. I'm sure he had a pretty normal life leading up to said event. And suddenly his stars changed, and now he hangs out with the likes of Graham Hancock and Jeremy Narby and people that I have a lot of respect for in the industry. And he's in the shamanic world by some happenstance, magic coincidence of the universe. So my favorite kind of story, a story that has rewritten stars, and so I'm happy to have you here. Welcome to the Urban Monk.
Thank you very, very much for inviting me. It's much appreciated. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you. And so you were a normal guy, living a normal life, presumably, and then you had something happen in an elevator. Let's talk about it.
That's correct. Well, I was working for an American computer corporation in London, and on one day, we're going back to 1983, I stepped in the elevator to go up, and suddenly my stomach was in my mouth, and I realized that the elevator was crashing, and I realized this was it. This is where it all ends, and so on. And then I had this strange experience. I left my body. I was gone. I wasn't there anymore. My body was small. I just disappeared, and I was somewhere else. And I knew I was going to die here. And but part of me. Well, not part of me. I didn't want to die. I wasn't ready to go. And then I'm back in my body. And then while the lift is still the elevator, sorry, lift is elevator in English. I get mixed up the two here. So please bear with me. And whilst the elevator was crashing, was falling down, I thought, what can I do? And I tried all sorts of things. I thought, well, I've seen in the movies like Roadrunner and all those kind of cartoons. You jump up in the air and so on and whatever. But of course I couldn't move because I was in free fall as well. The fact that I had a box around me made no difference. And then miraculously, this is the miracle, I knew exactly what to do. I took my handkerchief from my pocket and shoved it in my mouth and crouched down on my haunches. And as soon as I'd done that, elevator crashed. And of course, my lower jaw smashed against my upper jaw. If my tongue was anywhere in that area, it would have been chopped off. There's a huge impact there. But the thing is, one of the strange thing was that time stood still. It felt I had a huge amount of time, even though it was just a few seconds at the kind of velocity. And after that, and even though I went into a crouch and protected my tongue, I still broke my neck and damaged my back very severely, and I was out of action for 3-4 years. And that was during the period when I hit bottom during that particular period. But then something strange and mysterious happened to me. When I was trying to get some healing, I was seeing doctors and professionals and specialists and all sorts of people. I went to see a healer, and I was seeing him was good. He gave me a massage and so on. I mean, I had collars around my neck, and I couldn't stand. I couldn't walk. I was from being a very sporty guy to being someone who couldn't stand up, who couldn't support the weight of my shoulders, weight of my head on my shoulders. It was very, very challenging. And he said, if you want to, do you want to get well again? Do you want to heal? And I said, and I didn't right away say yes. I had to think about this because I was kind of used to being ill. And then suddenly something in me said, yes, I want to get well again. Then he said, forgive all the people you blame for the accident, for this elevator crash. And so I kind of got it together and I forgave. And it was like 10 tons of weight lifted from me. And that moment of forgiveness, that's what really shifted things. That's what really changed my life when I forgave. Because the elevator system was under maintenance and all the safety systems were switched off. And that's why the thing happened. So
there was negligence. There's plenty of people to blame for negligence and, why'd this happen to me? How dare they?
Oh, yeah, I was very, very angry. I was very, very depressed. I was very, very low. As I said, I spent my lowest point of my life. I spent months sitting on a chair looking out the window, just watching leaves fall from trees and that kind of stuff. I became kind of mindless until that moment of forgiveness, and everything shifted. So.
And then where did that take you? So you forgive, and suddenly your stars start to realign. And your body starts to mend, your mind starts to pick up some velocity in its ability to think and have clarity. And then how does this take you into a different life?
Well, because of the strange experience after forgiveness, I was having visionary experiences. I was hearing voices. I was seeing friendly beings appearing to me and encouraging me, giving me exercises, what to do. They were kind of waking me up, and I was sleeping. I was being woken up at night saying, "Howard, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up." There was no one there. Then the kind of a picture image in the room appeared, and do these exercises, do these practices, and so on. And then I got interested in kind of healing, because it was I found it very helpful what was going on with me. So that's what got me into healing, and I discovered.
So hold on a second. This after the accident this happened, or after the forgiveness this happened?
Forgiveness was after the accident, and this was after the forgiveness.
Okay, so
everything
after
changed.
So you're kind of miserable, dull affect guy, sitting staring out of a window after the accident, not really together. You do this forgiveness. Now you have entities in the room and voices giving you exercises, kind of nudging you along.
Yeah, that's correct. You put it very succinctly there. Yeah.
That is profound. That is profound. And so who are these entities? Did you know them? Was it Grandpa? Was it some random voice?
No, they were appearing to me in very acceptable forms, as such as Tibetan monks, Tibetan Buddhist monks, just friendly characters and so on. Just very friendly and very warm and very, very helpful. It was a very, very. I felt good from this contact. Mm-hmm. It was not something that was just an image. It was a feeling too. And sometimes I felt I was surrounded by coloured pastel lozenges all around me. It was just a very, very beautiful feeling, like fields of colour around me too. So I was experiencing this in all kind of ways, all senses, not just visual. It was a kinesthetic experience too.
So then, what starts happening to your body? Your neck is broken, your back is busted. You have obviously some orthopedic issues that have arisen from this free fall. Are you starting to mend on the physical level?
I'm starting to mend. My back was like a piece of rock; it wouldn't move. My neck was just very, very weak. It couldn't support the weight of my head. And gradually, my back started to ease. There was terrible pain. The back started to ease, became flexible, kind of like wood, then stone, and the same in my neck as well. And I found I could. Then the last thing to happen really was to walk, because my knees were crushed as well in this crash. So I couldn't really bend my legs. I certainly couldn't walk up a stairs or up a slope, and that started to heal as well. So I would say I was out of action for about 3 years to get physically working again. But it happened, and of course I was seeing medical people as well, and they were very, very impressed with the progress I was making, and they didn't say, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be happening." They were just very, very pleased for me. So I was getting positive support from all areas. But the main change was within me, from being very, very depressed and just looking out the window to suddenly entering a new world for me, a new experience for me, I was interested in a whole different bunch of things.
So now you're having these experiences. Life has taken on a very interesting course and is starting to unwind your injuries in a way that was kind of unpredictable, frankly. How did you get into shamanism? Did someone come to you? Did you read some books?
No. I mean, I never heard the word shamanism. I mean, I've heard it vaguely, but I didn't have it associated with a more of an anthropological kind of perspective. No, I was at a healing workshop, and I met a guy called Leo Rutherford. He's in the UK. He's been one of the I didn't know at the time, but he's very involved in shamanism and the medicine teachings and so on. And we just got friendly. We're just talking, and I'm just saying these amazing things have happened. I've never heard about them. And I thought I was going crazy with all this, but it seems to be working well. I says, Howard, you're talking shamanism. And so that's what got me interested in shamanism. And in shamanism, it felt very much at home for me. It was very earthy, very grounding, and that was something which was good for me. So yeah, there was a physical shift, there was emotional change, there was all sorts of changes in my life. But the main thing was I had a new direction now. I had changed as a person. The life that I was living had led up until then. It was no longer satisfying for me. It was no longer had meaning for me. So I knew my life was changing, and it did change.
Yeah,
You know,
it certainly did. It certainly did. And so
yeah.
now you're into shamanism, and then someone mentions the word ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And this is, I think it was Terrence McKenna or Tim Leary. One of them was asked about ayahuasca, and he said, that ain't no Saturday night kind of drug, right? You got to read a good 3,000 to 5,000 books before you mess with ayahuasca, right? Like, it is a teacher, and she is a powerful teacher. And, there's a lot of people talking about ayahuasca right now, but ayahuasca done in ceremony, and the ayahuasca done the right way has a mighty, mighty force behind it. And so when did you get into looking into ayahuasca, and what was that like?
Well, yeah. Well, I went to go to Peru, but it wasn't the ayahuasca that drew me there. I was kind of interested in the Andean teachings. That was the primary thing. But when I arrived in the jungle, and I initially went to Ucayali, which is the region around Pucallpa, around Lake Yarinacocha. And I drank ayahuasca with some Shipibo shamans there. I thought, yeah, this was it. This was it. It was like a new universe opened up to me. Not just the outer universe, the inner universe. And it was an extremely healing experience for me. It was an extremely cleansing experience for me. And it's like a vision and experience of totality in some respects. A vision which was too big for me to contain. It was just too large. But the feeling was there, and that's what really started off. And I was enchanted by the sounds, the chanting of the shamans, and so on. And so that started. That was late 1990s, and that started off a whole many months working with ayahuasca and plants as well. So yes. And I've come through this on a traditional medicine way, the traditional plant way. I don't see it in any ways recreational. I see it as a discipline. I see it as something that is certainly not a universal panacea for all sorts of problems and so on. However, I'm seeing and noticing that the world is changing. Ayahuasca is coming into the Western world in a very, very different way. And so, although I still hold on the traditional ways, the discipline, the diet, and the things you should do, or what traditionally do, I don't want to say the word should, the things that traditionally are done. I'm trying to adapt to the kind of the new way. I don't see it as a cure all, an immediate quick cure. I think that's a wrong thing to say. I think it's incorrect. It's a discipline, and it takes time, because ayahuasca to me is essentially a purgative. It's a cleanser. I'm not talking about the physical contents of your body. It's a cleanser of pain, trauma, emotions, and so on. But as they cleanse, as they move through your body for release, you experience them, you feel them, and that can be very, very overwhelming for people. That's why my view is that people do need a lot of support and guidance during the ayahuasca. It's not something casual. They need support and guidance, particularly with someone who's experienced shaman, for sure.
Listen, I've been very vocal about this on the show. I'm a starch opponent of this music festival spirituality that leads to people experimenting with drugs that they're not ready for out of context of tradition. And I've seen a lot of people, get hauled off to the psych ward by being unprepared for an experience that is, going to shake them at their foundation. So that's why the shaman is there. There are so many layers built into the tradition when you're out in the jungle doing this work the right way that are built, assembled around kind of handling your psyche and allowing for you to grow and have space to purge there, right? And so
exactly, I agree completely, 100% there. Yeah, it's not casual, but I think we have to face the fact that it is entering, as I said before, the Western world in a different way.
Oh, yeah.
But we still have a lot to learn from the traditional practices and methods which have been there for thousands of years. It's not something that people should treat very lightly. And often on things like Facebook, I look at the ayahuasca forum occasionally, and people will say, I'm going to drink ayahuasca on my own, and there's a whole dialogue starting, and there's this huge polarization. See, that's what I find interesting. It's polarization between, no, it's just liquid DMT, and other people saying, no, it's a traditional medicine practice, and so on. And I'm not seeing this dichotomy, this polarization, anyway coming together. So,
right.
yeah, I do have concerns for it, but for sure, I can say what was right for me, and I feel very comfortable with that.
Right. Well, and it's yes, 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 right? There's alkaloids, it's an MAO inhibitor, there's a lot of other things happening in this brew than just, smoking DMT. And one of the, it's a very reductionist view to say, well, this is DMT and therefore it is what it is. And so, yeah, look, that's something we're not going to resolve here, right? But
I know. And you can't argue that with people who have that position.
Right.
There's no argument. They're kind of close to that. Hold on, there's about 40 alkaloids active in ayahuasca. It's not just one.
Right.
And they work like a symphony orchestra. It's like taking the string section and the horns out of an orchestra and saying, oh, that's a symphony orchestra. Well, it's not. You're missing a harmony, you're missing a balance, a kind of interplay between these various parts of the medicine and so on. But hey, that's the way the world is now.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the way the world is, and that's what we're dealing with. So when someone hears this and says, ooh, that's interesting to me, what would your recommendation be to someone who's interested in shamanism? Like, how does one go about finding a good teacher?
Yeah, well, the old method of trial and error. You find someone who works for you or someone who doesn't work for you. But someone asked me that question earlier today in an email. They said, should I come on your course, this workshop I'm holding in the next few months? I said, that's not my place to tell you. You have to trust your instincts. You have to trust your feelings. And if you're on this path, that is what it's about. It's about not intellect and not about reading books and so on. It's about your feelings, your heart and your body. Your body and your heart cannot deceive you. They can't lie to you. The mind can play tricks and so on. The body can only tell you, yeah, this is okay. Oh, it's not okay. Mm-hmm. So I encourage people to go with their feelings, go with their intuition and instinct to see the right teacher, to do the right program and so on. And with trial and error. I mean, trial and error is part of it as well, because even from mistakes, well, not always mistakes. Mistakes are places where you can learn from. Confusion, mistakes. They're milestones on your path. So everything's okay. Everything's okay as long as you don't give the teacher a kind of a guru status, place the teacher on the pedestal and so on, because that's an imbalance. You may loan the teacher, the workshop leader, whatever, your attention and authority for the duration of the program, but the point really is that after the program's over, the workshop's over, that the workshop leader returns that authority to you, that attention to you, and you go away in a way which is expanded and improve the life. And that should be the gratification for both parties, the whole point. So I think you need some smarts, you need some experience, but trust your intuition, trust your feelings. That's the thing. And even things you think, oh, that was a mistake, I shouldn't have done that. Well, hold on, mistakes are okay too, as long as you don't make the same mistake all the time, because the mistake is a key point in learning experience. Mm-hmm. And I've made loads of mistakes, by the way. So, sure. And they're in the book as well. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and that's part of being human. Yeah. Right? There's no supernatural shaman out there. They're all just a bunch of people, right? And people have people attributes.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
One of the things that is really common in this narrative of ayahuasca and basically the shamanic practices in general is this visionary art that then is kind of birthed out of it. And so there's a lot of commonalities in the style, which is interesting because it also speaks to possible commonalities in the experience. And so I'd love for you, I see a couple pieces of art behind you that look like they come from, that flavor, if you will. So what's the
Correct.
Role of visionary art in this practice?
Well, let's say I think visionary art stands outside any practice. Visionary art has been there for since art began. It's to me, obviously it's there for inspiration, it's there for pleasure, all these things about enjoying art. It's for the feeling, because art to me is a feeling. It's a good painting, a good picture, a piece of art should make you feel something. But visionary art it presents to the viewer a different perspective, a different way of looking at your life, at reality. And if it does that, then it's achieved its objective. Because we need to be lifted from our everyday mundane view and receive some kind of inspiration, some kind of perspective difference. It's like traveling. If you travel, you get a different perspective. You meet different people, different cultures, and so on. So it takes you out of your everyday kind of limitation, shall we say, kind of increases from 2 dimensions, 3 dimensions, your perception. And that's what visionary art does. To me, it gives a person a new perspective, a new insight on something which may be mundane or commonplace, And there's something, as adults, I'll get onto my piece about art now, but as adults, we forget, we take things for granted. Now, we were all children once. We were all seeing something for the very first time in our lives. We saw a flower for the very first time in our life when we was a child. No other terms of reference, just this was the flower. This is what we're looking at, and so on. And art can take you back to that kind of place of innocence where you see something afresh, see something new, and that to me is a kind of expansion of consciousness and a connection with a deeper connection within. So it has many things. I mean, but visionary art is, as I said, is outside of a kind of a narrow field like shamanism. It's been throughout humanity's existence and so on. It's a way of. I'd also say it's been traditionally a way of reaching the divine, by painting, by viewing icons, by viewing religious figures and so on, and religious scenarios. It's a way to connect to a kind of a higher form of consciousness.
It seems that there are commonalities in style and kind of thematic imprints that come out of this kind of shamanic art. I mean, it all has kind of a natural tinge to it. It all has interesting kind of texture and colors, and it's just like this genre of art, and it comes from different. I mean, you're an English dude. There's anyone who goes down and does this work seems to kind of see similar stuff, and it expresses in a way. I mean, it all looks different, but it all to me has a similar flavor. Is there just this kind of universal ayahuasca universe that people are tapping into, or are people tapping into what things look like in the energy realm? Like, this is obviously your opinion that I'm asking for here.
Yeah, well, I can say yes to both. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there is a kind of a cosmic geometric structure which people do connect to when ayahuasca opens it up to them. And also, I mean, I can bring other factors as well. I mean, some of my work is based on, when I'm in the medicine, I have synesthesia, so I can see sound. Sound has shapes, sound has forms, and the icaros that the shaman is chanting have a geometric structure, a form, and a obviously it's not a static thing, it's a changing thing, it has a structure. And that's what really influences my painting, is that kind of place where sound becomes shape, form, and color. And ayahuasca and other hallucinogens open a person up to another way of perception, and that perception is a combination of energy vibrations which can be seen. So I answer yes to both of those things.
Sure. Did you develop the synesthesia in the falling elevator with a bang of the head, or did you develop it through the work that you've done, or did you have it before the elevator incident?
No, it was through the work I've done.
Through the work you've done.
Very clearly, yeah.
Yeah, wow. And then one day it was just boom, I now have synesthesia, or is it a muscle that you can flex and get more of with kind of concentration and focus?
Yeah, well, I've learned now, after the door has been opened, to do it through attention. Now, for example, when I play classical music like Baroque, such as J.S. Bach, I can see or sense with my kind of energy perception the shape of the sound that he composed. It has a shape, a form, a geometric structure. And I've taken ayahuasca before and played Bach and Handel, and it was a whole different experience. I entered the mathematical geometric universe, and I've taken that away with me and had placed that kind of attention without any medicine on the music, on the sound, but open to the forms and the shapes that are being constructed and so on. And I could speculate, this is speculation, this is a speculative hypothesis that J.S. Bach also has synesthesia as well. Because his music has a shape to it, and it's not only, I believe he was composing for the sound, he was also composing for the geometric form of the sound as well.
So when you're seeing this shape, I'm going to get you to shift a little to your left. You're in shadow a bit. Yeah, thank you. When you're seeing this shape, are we talking about like elaborate Platonic solids? Are we talking about angular geometry? Are we talking about more kind of sine wave curvature? Like what does this stuff look like
It looks like to me like geometric forms. Now, I'm not saying platonic shapes and so on, but certainly they're not static. They move with the sound. So it's probably a combination of waveform and geometric structure. It's dynamic.
Got it. So angular and circular.
And it expands. And it expands. It expands, it contracts with the sound itself. And that's something which the door was open to me, obviously, through the plants and so on. But ever since then, when I pay attention and I switch off the lights and just switch on the music and place my attention on that, that's why I get that kind of experience.
Can you shut it down too? I mean, it seems like something you don't want to, if you're listening to Bach in the car, that's probably something you don't want to be experiencing.
No, I have to be in a very mellow, relaxed place and make a decision to do that.
Got it. Yeah. You got to go there.
You got to switch it. You got to make the decision. This is what I want. This is where I want to go. Yeah.
Got it. Well, it seems so nice to be able to have that much more range in your human experience. And being able to kind of come back and forth and choose the experience. I mean, some people end up becoming psychopaths or sociopaths, and they just lose it because they have too much information and they can't control it. It becomes overwhelming, and they just cannot function in society. And you're a nice, articulate, well-spoken dude who can access certain things and shut them down and do things. And so that seems like it's just more tools in the toolbox that allow us to experience reality and taste her different flavors, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to me, it's really the essence of shamanism that you do have access to these other realms of consciousness and energy, but you can do that at will because the main purpose is to function here on planet Earth, yet to bring this knowledge, this experience into everyday life. So you have to be grounded. You have to be kind of able to switch on and switch off. If you can't switch on and switch off, then life can be very, very difficult because what is reality? Now, I diet plants. Some plants. Let me give you one example. I was dieting many, many years. I dieted a plant in the Amazon called guayusa, and guayusa is a plant which there's a number of things, but traditionally it kind of erases the boundary between waking and dreaming. So which in the jungle is great. It doesn't matter if you're sleeping, waking, dreaming. There's no difference. And I brought it back to England with me, the plant, and I started to diet the plant in England, doing the regular discipline and so on. And I woke up one morning and I wasn't sure if I had woken up or I was dreaming that I was waking up. And I thought, Howard, stop it right now, because you're in a different reality here. You've got to be functional. You can't walk across the street and say, "Oh, I'm dreaming there's a bus coming towards me" or something. No. So yeah, you've got to really be able to function. Yeah. It's
one of the classic stories in Taoism is Chuang-Tzu, waking up, confused whether he was dreaming he was a butterfly or if he is now a butterfly dreaming he's woken up as a human. Right, and it's that real pivot between that lucid state and the concrete reality, if you want to call it such, that the rest of us can agree upon and stay in our lanes and not crash into each other.
Yeah.
And there's a fine line, but staying just in that concrete reality, I think has led to a lot of rigidity and closed us off to an information stream that's A, part of who we are, and B, incredibly valuable for our personal growth.
Absolutely, and but as you pointed out, there are some kind of pitfalls in being out there, because it means you can't function here, and the whole point of being here is to function as a human being, to experience the full range of human experience and emotions and so on. So it's a judgment, but the decision has to be, at the end of the day, that you want to be a human being to function here on Earth, and the other experiences and the alternate realities and other realms of consciousness and energy are there to support you in the physical reality we all would agree on. But there is another reality. You are aware of these things. You're aware that the world is alive. Plants have a consciousness. You're aware of you can interact with other species and so on. You know this, but you are disciplined and you switch it on and switch it off. Now, that's my opinion. I'm not saying this is how it should be, but for sure, if you want to function in the everyday world, you've got to take some kind of position and decision on this.
Well, I would put it that if the people walking on this planet lived on this planet but had that orientation and understood that plants had consciousness and there was this undercurrent of life, communicating through this channel of life all throughout us, we would act a bit differently towards the environment and towards each other and many other things. So I think that is a healthy dose of something humanity can use a little tonic of. And so, the book is called The Accidental Shaman, Howard Charing. It just came out a couple days ago and is available, I'm assuming, anywhere books are sold. And I love these kind of practical approaches to things that people think are just so far off and so out of reach for them. I mean, you're a normal guy who had an extraordinary circumstantial, kind of mishap that thrust you on a different path. But look, you don't need to fall out of the sky or get hit by a bus to look into this stuff. And as a matter of fact, when you start looking into it, the lessons are there to be unpacked. And can a normal person listening to us right now start to experience these wonderful things in shamanism?
Well, yeah, obviously, generalization, but for sure. If somebody feels they want to do this, if somebody feels this is right, because this is how people are attracted to this kind of work, it's a feeling. So if a person is able to have that feeling and not ignore it, not dismiss it, and it's not just for this, it's in everyday life. We have feelings, we have intuition. It's to follow your intuition. I'm sure they will be on the right way. It's a challenge. And they may have preconceived ideas from their culture and various notions which kind of limit them in a kind of a physical world. But if they feel it here, it's their soul is speaking to them, their spirit is talking to them. So all they need to do, they have everything they need, is just to listen to this, just to feel this, and just to go along with it. So we all have this capacity, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. Howard, I want to thank you for your time and the work that you've done. I encourage everyone to check out this book and this subject. It's fascinating to me. I love this conversation, and I love seeing it continue to move forward in the world that we live. Thank you so much for being here. And for my urban monkers out there, let me know what you think, and let me know if you've had any shamanic experiences, where you've gone, what you've done, and let's share. Let's see if we can get more people exposed to this information.
Well, thank you.